Today we're opening a tender and meaningful conversation about dreams, specifically dreams that carry the themes of inclusion and exclusion.
And so is this where the dream becomes a map? Like, does it shows the difference between being present in a system and then actually feeling that belonging?
And it might also reveal the adaptations that we learned in order to belong. It's our patterns in order to survive not belonging.
And already so many symbolisms here in this dream. You've got the gathering, the food, the dog, and then you being so careful to get it right.
And then another part of the dream had us actually boxing up pizza. We'd cooked lots of pizza and we were trying to find just the right shaped boxes to fit the shapes of the pizza so it could be saved for another day.
Yeah, and then instead of it being freely given and sacred, as you said, it becomes more of a survival strategy. So it's something that you must do.
Yeah, so the question that I sat with from the dream was, where do I still try to earn my place through care? And then an even deeper question there was, what would it mean to belong without having to prove my usefulness? Here we are. Well, welcome to the Healing You Method podcast. I'm Gloria Lybecker, and I'm here with my close friend and co-host, Gail Donohue.
Hi, everyone. We're so glad you're here with us.
Today, we're opening a tender and meaningful conversation about dreams, specifically dreams that carry the themes of inclusion and exclusion. These are the dreams where we might find ourselves feeling left out, unseen, forgotten, or uninvited, or just standing outside the circle. And they can show up as family gatherings, school settings, weddings, vacations, classrooms, homes, or just maybe a room that we can't enter.
Yeah, and these dreams can feel so emotionally charged because, gosh, belonging is such a deep human need. It's not just about being invited somewhere, it's about being received. It's about really feeling in our bodies that there's a place for me here.
Yeah. And what I do enjoy the Jungian perspective, but that dreams are not random, that they speak to us through images and symbols, archetypes and emotional patterns. They often reveal what the conscious mind just can't quite fully name yet. So when we are having reoccurring dreams, or they're really emotionally vivid about being left out, excluded, or uncertain of where we belong, the dream, it's actually inviting us into in my experience, it's a deeper layer of healing.
Yeah, yes, and it might be showing us an old belonging wound, but not to keep us stuck there. And it was really interesting, Gloria. Yesterday, I was reading something about dreams, and they were saying how important they are for our healing. That when we're in our REM sleep, that we're actually thinking through situations to help us. So I'm excited about what we're going to be talking about today with you.
Yeah, well, you take that, what you just shared there. When we go into that state, that's when our nervous system actually can do the reconsolidation, right? And we're like reorganizing our inner mapping, our inner world. And when we have those kind of dreams, it's like the dream, it might be saying to us that this is a part of you that's ready to be seen, or this is a pattern that's ready to be known now. And the wound perhaps is ready to be met with some compassion.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, well, certainly I can, but perhaps many other people can relate to this kind of dream, being at a gathering, and everyone else seems to know what's happening and they're happy talking to other people. But, for some reason it feels a little bit off for yourself or for me. You could feel that you're with family, but you feel separate.
Mhm.
Or there's a group of people doing something together, and then you realize that you weren't invited.
Yeah.
That could
And
be hard.
yeah, well, I've had that experience and it is
Yeah,
hard,
me
you
too.
know. And sometimes the dream itself, it can seem like it's so simple and yet the feeling can feel enormous. And that's one of the first things that I have learned to pay attention to in dream work is it's not just the imagery, it's the emotional flavor of the dream. Because dreaming about being outside of a room, it's not just about the room. It
Mm.
can be that felt sense of there's a place that I want to enter, but I don't know if I'm welcome.
Right, right. Or maybe perhaps like I'm here, but I'm not really included.
Yeah, and
That
that
kind of a feeling too, eh?
yeah, and that's such an important distinction to make. Sometimes
Mm,
we're physically present in a family or relationship, in a community or a system even, but inwardly, we don't feel received. We don't feel met. We don't feel known, perhaps.
mm. And so is this where the dream becomes a map? Like, does it shows the difference between being present in a system
Mhm.
and then actually feeling that belonging?
Yeah, and it might also reveal the adaptations that we learned in order to belong.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
our patterns in order to survive not belonging.
Right, right. So, Gloria, I'm curious, can you bring in a small piece from one of your dreams to speak directly to this theme of belonging and not feeling belonging?
Yeah, that's been one of the patterns that I've worked with a lot in my healing journey. And there's a dream in particular around this where um, it was around family systems, and it was both my husband's family and my own family line. And there was a family reunion. People were gathering, and food was being prepared. And there was even a dog that needed to be fed, but in a very particular way. Rice and chicken and just the right amount and at the right time. And in the dream, I was really wanting to make sure that I followed the directions correctly. I wanted to do it right. I wanted to tend what needed tending.
Yeah. And already so many symbolisms here in this
Hmm.
dream. You've got the gathering, the food, the dog, and then you being so, so careful to get it right.
Yeah. And then another part of the dream had us actually boxing up pizza. We had cooked lots of pizza and we were trying to find just the right shaped boxes to fit the shapes of the pizza so it could be saved for another day. And then there was a really tender piece where the women in Richard's family, they would get together and go on vacations, but I wasn't
Mm.
invited. So it wasn't dramatic in the dream. It was just like this quiet knowing that I was outside of that circle.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and thinking about that dream and that image, it feels so powerful with the women gathering, but you weren't included. And so, with that dream, what did that touch in you when you woke up and you sat with it?
Well, it touched that really old belonging wound. That place of wondering, where do I fit in? Am I
Mm,
wanted here? Or am I only included when I'm useful, when I'm
mm.
helping, and when I'm tending to everyone else's needs? And that felt important to me because it was the dream wasn't only showing me exclusion, it was showing me the pattern around exclusion. It really revealed to me how quickly I can move into caretaking, into
Mm.
organizing and managing and doing things correctly and trying to make sure that everything is tended. It's almost as if there's younger parts of me that have believed that if I do this right, then I'll be okay. Then maybe I'll belong.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems like a really important distinction that the dream wasn't just saying you simply like you were left out. It was showing your nervous system in action with a strategy that has formed around feeling left out or actually being left out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where I find the Jungian dream work that it can be so incredibly helpful because the dream it gives us images for inner patterns.
Mm.
So I was able then to see that caretaker archetype in that dream, the one who feeds and organizes, preserves, and just tries to get it right. But I could also feel the exiled one, the part who stands outside the feminine circle and wonders, why wasn't I invited?
Mm. Oh, wow. Yeah. And yeah, bringing in that word archetype, that really brings us to looking at, I'd love to look at the archetype of the outsider, or as you said, the exiled one. So, can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, the outsider is the one who stands at the edge of the village or of
Mm.
the family, the group, or the circle. And often this archetype carries both pain and wisdom. And the outsider may be the part of us that learned very early I'm different, or I just don't quite fit, or there's something about me that isn't welcome here.
Mm. Yeah. And so I imagine that sometimes that comes from actual rejection.
Mm-hmm.
And then at other times, I'm thinking about we may have been included only if we abandoned parts of ourselves, only if we became what the others needed us to be.
Yeah, and that's really important, and that's really touches my wound, right? A
Yeah.
child, you technically be included in the family, but
Mm.
only if she's quiet, or
Right.
only if she performs, or only if she doesn't need too much, or if she doesn't tell the truth. Or she carries the emotional labor, or she keeps the peace. And later, the dream may show us being left out of a trip, a gathering, or a circle. But underneath the image, there's a deeper question. And that's, well, can I belong and still be myself?
Yeah. And as you named all of those different ways of being excluded, I just went, oh my gosh, they're so powerful. And to experience that when you're young, which is, I think, well, I know lots of those that you named, I can say, yes, that was me too.
Mm-hmm.
And this question of can I belong and still be myself? Gosh, that seems like such a central piece to look at.
Yeah, it does because, false belonging, it asks us to trade our authenticity for acceptance.
Hmm.
And, true belonging, it allows us to remain connected to ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. And so I'm just thinking, could we come back to that image of you feeding the dog in the dream and in the Jungian symbolism? I understand that animals often represent instinct.
Mhm.
So, like for a dog, it can symbolize loyalty, attachment, protection, companionship, or the instinct, the instinctual bond with the family system. Is
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And what stood out to me was that the dog, it had to be fed very specifically.
mm,
It wasn't just feed the dog, it was get the right food, the right amount, the right timing. And that felt like such a clear part, an image of the part of me that I learned to monitor the field. And
mhm.
I learned to follow the rules very carefully.
Yeah, you really learned that if you're going to belong, it depended on you doing the rules and following the rules and doing it correctly too. That extra layer.
Yeah, and that's a deep pattern for many of us.
Mm,
There's some of us learn to earn belonging by being helpful, others by being quiet, or by being impressive, or maybe by having absolutely no needs, or by becoming the caretaker.
yeah, yeah. And then when that performance gets so ingrained in us, like how do we tell if this is love or if it's just a performance? Gosh, I can see how it just creates so much confusion and turmoil too, comes to mind for me.
Well, and it's a tender question because, perhaps we haven't even noticed it. We've just been so conditioned.
Mhm.
It's just running us.
Hmm.
The caretaker archetype, it has real beauty in it because care is so sacred. The care circuitry.
Hmm.
And tending, that's sacred. And feeding. You think about feeding a baby, right? That's
Yeah.
sacred time. But when it becomes the price of belonging, it's true, something gets really distorted there.
Yeah, and then instead of it being freely given and sacred, as you said, it becomes more of a survival strategy. So it's something that you must do.
Yeah, so the question that I sat with from the dream was, where do I still try to earn my place through care?
Mm,
And then an even deeper question there was, what would it mean to belong without having to prove my usefulness?
mm. Yeah, that's a really important question. What would it mean to belong without having to prove my usefulness? Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I'm also, in addition to the dog, thinking about the image of the pizza and the boxes. I mean, that feels like so ordinary in a way, but also symbolic. So, yeah, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it does feel that way. Food in dreams, it often carries the themes of nourishment, love, community, and shared life. The pizza, it's a communal food, right?
Yeah.
So it's something that people gather around and it's meant to be shared. But in the dream, we weren't simply eating it and enjoying it. It was so fascinating that we were cutting it up in different shapes and then we were boxing it and trying to find just the right shape of the container.
Oh, gosh. And so what's hitting me right now, Gloria, is that, well, the nourishment of the food was there, but God, it had to be managed in a very particular rule way.
Yeah, and that felt so meaningful to me. It made me wonder, where have I created nourishment, love, wisdom, or beauty? And then I had to find a container that could actually hold
Mm,
it. Because not every container actually fits what our soul creates.
mm. Oh, yeah, that's really beautiful. Like what container could actually hold it? Wow, yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna
because,
think on that one some more myself.
it had me really pausing for a while, but, some family systems, they're too small to hold our truth. And there are communities that just don't actually hold our gifts. And there's some roles that they can't actually hold what we're
Mhm.
becoming. And then there are actually identities that once helped us survive, but it no longer fits the shape of who we actually are.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting because as you named that, I was thinking back in an experience with me with someone that I worked with, and I began to come into my own and bring my own gifts there, but it was extremely threatening for this other person. I needed to stay in the role that I had and in the shape that I had. So that was I can see the link there. So the dream could be asking you what containers no longer fit.
Yeah. And for me, one of the answers that came through was it was the way that I've hidden my gifts,
Mm,
especially my voice and my music, my freedom to be me and my joy. And so that felt like a real turning point in the dream work because then the dream wasn't only about being excluded, it was also about realizing that where some of the old containers were never meant to hold the fullness of me.
mm, that's interesting. Yeah. And so, and then this is interesting because the dream moved between Richard's family and your own. Well, would it be your father's family line? Like that?
Yeah.
Just checking that. Yeah. Okay. So, well, that seems significant because two different male kind of containers in a way.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was like the dream was walking through different ancestral rooms.
Hmm.
So there was Richard's family system, and then there was this movement back to Nebraska, to my father's family. And in the dream, I was aware of certain relatives and cousins and the old family dynamics. And there was a feeling of, well, we're family, But also, I don't necessarily feel resonance here.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting that, well, that you are able to come to such an honest place to see what was happening for you aligned with this dream. Yeah.
Well, it's important to say, you know, it's individuation in the Jungian sense. It often asks us to become really honest about the differences between structural
Mm,
belonging and soul belonging. And
yeah.
just because someone is family, it doesn't mean that the relationship, that it feels mutual or nourishing or even resonant. And just because we don't feel resonance doesn't mean that we're unkind.
Hmm.
It may mean that we're learning to trust our own inner truth.
Hmm. Yeah. So that when you say it like that, it just feels like such a growth, such a moving into a mature movement of
Mm.
owning or being with your soul more, and you're not rejecting, but you're learning about discerning. That seems really quite big.
Yeah, it was. Discernment is not rejection. And from an ancestral perspective, dreams like this can actually show us, reveal to us inherited roles.
Mm,
The one who keeps peace, the one who tends the family, the one who swallows the herd, or the one who stays useful, and the one who
mhm.
doesn't ask for too much.
Yeah, yeah. So you can have the dream showing you information on a personal level, but also can be revealing a pattern that has been happening and been carried throughout the family field.
Yeah, so it's kind of like constellation work, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so the healing is not to blame the family system. The healing is in becoming conscious of the pattern and being able to ask and own what is mine to keep and what am I ready to return with love. And for me, the answer that came through was, I'm ready to return the shame and the silence, and I'm ready to keep the strength and the endurance, the devotion and the life force.
That's so wonderful. Like, what are you willing to give back, and then what are you willing to keep? Those things that are really aligned with who you are.
Yeah.
And so, I'd like to come back to the women that went on vacation, the dream where the women went on vacation without you, because that feels like a very important piece of that exclusion theme.
Yeah, it was a tender center of the dream,
Mm,
because the women gather and then they go together. They have a circle, and yet I'm not invited. So that image really touched something old, not only from adult life, but from younger places too. Because I remembered that feeling so well when I was in junior high. At that time in my life, I was left out of my best friend's circle, and I just didn't understand why there was no. I never found out why.
wow, well, that's I can feel the tenderness of that because I'm sure I mean, I can think of that for me as well, and I'm sure our listeners, there might be some listeners that that's happened to them as well.
Yeah, it is
So
tender.
tender.
And that's how dreams work sometimes. They can open up a current image, and then underneath it, there's this older emotional chamber.
Mm.
The dream may be about family now, but the body also remembers other moments of that exclusion, and the heart remembers the ache of not being chosen.
Right, yeah. And then there's that younger part still asking,
Yeah,
what did I do wrong?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where the healing actually comes in. Because the dream's not asking me to go back and make those women invite me. It's not
Mm,
asking me to try harder to fit into a circle that doesn't actually feel mutual. It's actually asking me to turn toward the excluded one that's inside. And that's the inner parts conversation, right? Is and say, I see you. You're not too much. You're not
mm,
too little. And you don't have to beg to belong. You belong to yourself, and I will not abandon you.
mm. That conversation sounds like, and like it feels like that's the medicine for this little one.
Well, it is because so often the wound says, I was left out, so something
Mm,
must be wrong with me. that was the felt sense inside. But the healing, it says, yeah, I was left out and it hurt. But my worth was never defined by that exclusion. And there's a distinction there.
Yeah, for sure. Because it sounds like we're getting to the shadow piece here. Because this
Yeah.
is bringing in the shadow, right?
Yeah. And I love bringing compassion to the shadow. In Jungian psychology, the shadow is not bad. I mean, so
Mm,
many of us have been taught that the shadow is bad and that light
hmm
is good, good, bad, right, wrong. But what it is, it's simply what's been pushed out of consciousness identity or conscious identity. Um, and so it include many different kinds of emotions. It could be anger or grief. It could be desire, power, need, creativity. It could be even joy.
Wow, yeah, yeah. So in an exclusion dream, the shadow may be the hurt we haven't allowed ourselves to feel. Would that be right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be the grief of not being chosen, or it could be the anger of being overlooked, or the exhaustion from overfunctioning, or the longing to actually stop performing,
Mm.
or the desire to be welcomed authentically, right, without having to earn it.
Oh yeah, that's such a big one. And I guess we exclude these feelings from ourselves because they don't fit the identity we've had to hold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I've identified as being the loving one or the helpful one or the spiritual one, or, it can be hard to then admit to
Mhm.
myself that I feel hurt or I feel angry or I feel left out, or that I don't want to have to be useful to be loved. And so the feelings, they're not obstacles to healing. They're actually like doorways into being able to see the truth.
Ah. And then seeing that truth and having a voice, it's all part of our dream, actually helping and facilitating us to have those parts have a voice.
Yeah. Yeah. It allows the excluded one to speak instead of asking the caretaker to just smooth everything over.
Mm. Yeah, and one thing I'm wondering about here, Gloria, is because I've heard you all talk about choices so much, and so I'm wondering if I'm hearing this correctly when you talk about the dream, are you seeing it as a movement from earning belonging to you choosing belonging and choosing how you want to belong?
Yeah, that feels really true. If the old pattern is saying, if I tend enough, if I get it right, if I fit into the system, if I don't make anyone else
Hmm.
uncomfortable, then maybe I'll be included. And yet, through this exploration and this deeper work, the true self says, you don't have to earn love by abandoning your true nature.
Isn't that wonderful? I mean, that would be so beautiful for everyone to have that, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I ask, what does true belonging feel like in my body? The answer that came, it was like joy and freedom. It wasn't carefulness or self-erasure. It wasn't about managing the field. It was joy and freedom.
Mm. And how wonderful to have to feel that so clearly in your body as a truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then the question became, well, what would I choose now if I didn't have to earn love? And it was such a fun answer. The answer was to sing and to dance, to love and to stay heart connected with life. And that was like the medicine that I received from the dream.
Mm. So although your dream began with family, your analysis of family systems and seeing the caretaking and the exclusion piece, um, by being with it and seeing all of these different parts and bringing the voice, it sounds like it led you towards more aliveness.
Yeah, my truth. So that's what I love about dream work. A dream, it may begin in the wound. And when I've discovered when I stay with it very gently, it actually reveals to me the path back to life.
Wonderful. So, well, Gloria, maybe for the listeners who may have dreams like this, like dreams of being left out or forgotten, excluded, or not knowing where they belong, how might they begin to work with these dreams?
Well, I encourage people to, first thing would be to write the dream down without trying to interpret it too quickly and just honor any images that came. Who was there? Where were you? What was happening? And notice, what did you feel?
Hmm.
And I like to begin with the feeling because the feeling is often the doorway.
Okay. So you could have feelings that might come up of shame or grief, confusion, fear, or anger, perhaps, or a longing. That's where you would start then.
Yeah. And then you might ask, well, what part of me feels this way? Or
Hmm.
where do I know this feeling from?
Hmm.
And what younger part of me may be present in this dream? Or what role am I playing in the dream? Am I trying to earn belonging? Or am I trying to caretake, perform, disappear? Or am I trying to get it right? And then also notice, who or what is excluded.
Hmm.
And I like asking, how can I include that part of myself now?
Yeah, that last question feels really important because it's coming back. Okay, well, what can I choose to do, or how can I be different now? Um, because and then that's really interesting, because we talk about relationship, and so it seems to me that's where the dream work brings in the relationship of you with yourself. Would you say that?
Yeah. Yeah, because all healing is actually relational. So when we're including the relationship we have with the dream figures and the parts of ourselves that they reveal, that's where the healing is
Hmm.
relational there.
Right, right. Okay. Well, could we offer a simple practice to the listeners?
Yeah. So if you wake from a dream where you feel excluded or left out, I invite you to maybe put a hand on your heart and take a breath and then say, there's a part of me here that needs care.
Hmm.
And then you could ask some questions inwardly. Who is the excluded one in this dream? Notice, what does she believe about herself? And what does she need to hear from me now? And or you might journal, you could write from her voice. And this is like constellation work too,
Hmm.
and then really hear what she says. Maybe she says, I feel sad, or I feel forgotten, or I feel like I don't matter, or I feel like I have to beg for a place.
Hmm.
And then coming back to your true self, your wiser self, then touch in and really hear how you respond to this voice. And maybe you say, you're welcome here. You
Hmm.
don't have to earn your place. You belong with me. I will not abandon you. I know that's
Hmm.
been really powerful for me to see my younger self and to
Yeah,
actually say to her, I will not abandon you, or to even recognize that I had been, you know?
right. The first place, recognize it and then be able to say it like that. Yeah, it seems tender and powerful, as you said, to say you do not have to earn your place. You belong with me. I will not abandon you. I think, even those phrases, we could take those phrases. That's
Yeah, they're
accessible.
like truth statements, that which is
Mm,
part of constellation work.
yeah.
And when for me, the healing really begins when my true self, it turns toward the part that felt exiled, and I invite it to come closer.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's a real sweet
Yeah.
moment there.
And so what's so juicy about this conversation, Gloria, is that these dreams, they're not just showing us the pain. If we stay and we get curious with some of those questions that you offered up, they're showing us thresholds to
Mhm.
new pathways that we can choose to travel along.
Yeah. They're showing us where something wants to come home. That's how I like to say it. It's like getting
Hmm.
to come home to my own heart. When we can meet these dreams gently, without rushing to fix them or over analyzing them. They can become guides, gentle guides. They can begin to reveal to us where we have adapted or where we have hidden our truth or where we've tried so hard to earn love or where our soul is now ready for something that's really truer.
Yeah, and then perhaps invite us to ask, what kind of belonging does my soul need now?
Yeah, because as we did talk about this earlier, not all belonging is true belonging.
Yeah.
Because the dream, it can help us to release the old bargain. I will belong if I disappear.
Hmm.
And it can invite in a new truth. I belong as I become more fully myself.
Mm. What a beautiful place to land. What a different, more beautiful place to land.
Yeah, so for everyone listening, if you have been having dreams of being left out or unseen, forgotten, or unsure where you belong, then we invite you to meet those dreams with tenderness. There may be a younger part of you asking to be seen, or there may be an exiled gift that's asking to return. There may be grief that truly needs compassion, and there may be a family pattern that's ready to be released. And maybe there's a new circle calling you forward.
Mm.
There may be a deeper belonging that's beginning from within you.
Mm. That's beautiful. A deeper belonging beginning inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
So, for everyone, thank you so much for joining for this conversation on dreams, belonging wounds, inclusion, exclusion, and the parts of us that are ready to come home.
Yes, in our next episode, Gail and I will be coming together for a recap conversation where we're going to reflect on the last three podcast episodes and the deeper threads that connect them.
So, we'll be revisiting episode 340 called You Are the Dreamer, Reclaiming Your Creative Power Through the Body with Sarah Demister, where we explored creativity, embodiment, and becoming the conscious creator of your life.
Yes, and we'll also reflect on episode 341, Quantum Alchemy, Galactic Awakening and the Healing Field. It's a conversation with Julie Valentine and Tim Fraser, where we opened a powerful conversation about quantum healing, ancient wisdom, galactic awakening, and the multidimensional nature of transformation.
And we will also include today's episode, episode 342, Inclusion and Exclusion Themes, the dream pattern that maps belonging wounds. And this is where we explored how dreams can reveal the places we felt left out, unseen, or uncertain of our belonging, and how these patterns can become invitations to deeper healing.
So together, these three episodes, they invite us to reclaim our creative power, to open to expanded fields of healing, and to really listen deeply to the dreams and symbols that show us where the soul is ready to become more whole.
We look forward to being with you then. And until next time, may you listen gently to your dreams, trust what your body is telling you, and remember, you do not have to earn love by abandoning your nature.
Yeah, thank you for listening to the Healing You Method podcast. We'll see you next time.